Okay, so you've reached a pretty impressive level in English, right? You're handling complex negotiations. Maybe you're reading some fairly nuanced literature, expressing sophisticated ideas. You're definitely past the beginner stuff. But then it happens. You're writing that important email, feeling good, and bam, I look forward to hear from you.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Or, in a crucial report, something like, one of the main reason is slips through. These aren't basic mistakes.
No, not at all.
They're those persistent, really frustrating little errors that can kind of undermine your credibility. And honestly, they can leave you questioning yourself, can't they?
Absolutely. It's maddening because you know the rule. You've probably studied it, maybe even explained it to someone else.
Exactly. So why does it keep happening? It feels like hitting this wall, this plateau you just can't seem to breach. The frustration is huge.
It really is. But what if the issue isn't really your knowledge or, your underlying ability? What if it's more about your methodology?
Methodology. How so?
What if you could tackle these stubborn grammar points, not with that sigh of exasperation we all know, but with the cool, logical approach of a software developer?
Okay, interesting. Like debugging code, but for language.
Precisely. So today in this deep dive, that's exactly what we're exploring. We've looked at this fantastic piece of writing that argues for, well, a pretty radical shift in how you think about errors.
Okay.
Our mission really is to help you become a kind of grammar debugger.
A grammar debugger. I like it.
Yeah. We'll show you how to apply that powerful analytical programmer mindset to your own English writing, how to systematically hunt down, understand, and ultimately, fix the bugs in your language code.
So the first step is mindset then. Getting away from that frustration.
It's fundamental. It's the biggest shift. Most learners, when they hit an error, they react emotionally, right? It's what we might call the frustrated artist mode.
Frustrated artist. Yeah, I recognize that feeling. Shame, embarrassment.
Exactly. Frustration, maybe even a bit of shame. The mistake feels personal, like a reflection on you.
Yeah.
But a programmer, when they find a bug in their code, the reaction is usually quite different.
More like, that's weird.
Right. That's unexpected behavior. Let's figure out why.
Yeah.
The bug is a logical problem, a puzzle to solve, not some kind of personal failing. That's the logical detective mindset.
Okay.
And what's fascinating here is, well, just how powerful shifting that internal story can be. Moving from self-blame to this detached curiosity, that's the real foundation for effective self-correction.
That makes sense, reframing it as a puzzle. But, for someone who's been fighting the same error for years, how does that actually work in practice? Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's talk about Lena. She's a very meticulous project manager based in Berlin. Her English, really fluent, very capable. But she had these recurring fossilized errors.
Fossilized errors,
Yeah.
the ones that just won't die.
Exactly. Deeply ingrained mistakes that just hang around, even though you consciously know the rule. For Lena, it was often prepositions, phrasal verbs, things like mixing up in demand and on demand, or saying result to instead of result in.
Okay, common sticking points.
Very common.
Yeah.
And every time her manager corrected her, she felt, less professional. It chipped away at her confidence. But then she had this breakthrough moment.
Yeah. What happened?
She was in a meeting, and one of the lead engineers was describing how they fixed this really critical software bug. And he wasn't apologetic or embarrassed. He was actually quite animated, talking about isolating the specific conditions where the bug appeared and finding a flaw in the logic.
So the language he used clicked for her?
Precisely. She suddenly saw her own recurring preposition mistake, not as a stupid mistake, but as a bug that showed up under certain conditions. It was a light bulb moment.
I can imagine.
That same day, she started what she called an English bug log. And the key thing was, she replaced that feeling of shame with genuine curiosity. She started asking why. Why does English use on with demand here? What's the logic?
That's a huge shift from feeling inadequate to being analytical.
It's transformative. Seeing the error as an objective problem to solve systematically, not as a personal failing.
Okay, I love that idea. So how do we actually start doing that, cultivating this logical detective mindset, especially when that emotional reaction is so automatic for many of us?
Well, one really practical strategy is to externalize the error. Try to catch yourself saying my mistake. Instead, make a conscious effort to say the mistake.
Creating distance.
Exactly. It makes it an object you can analyze, not part of your identity. Another thing is actively cultivating diagnostic curiosity.
Diagnostic curiosity.
So instead of that familiar, I always mess up the third conditional, you ask a specific question like, okay, what is it about the third conditional structure that my brain finds tricky? Is it the had plus past participle bit? Or is it the would have plus past participle part that trips me up?
So you're pinpointing the potential source of confusion.
Right. That curiosity turns the frustration into a specific puzzle you can actually work on.
That sounds almost simple, but powerful. Still, some listeners might be thinking, I've tried keeping error logs before, they didn't really stick. What makes this a debugger's log different?
It's the spirit of the analysis, specifically the no blame postmortem.
No blame postmortem. Okay.
After you find an error, take just 60 seconds, no judgment, no beating yourself up, and analyze the why. Was it just a slip? A typo because you were rushing? Or was it a genuine error, a gap in your knowledge you need to fill? Or maybe it's one of those fossilized habits, an old mistake that pops up automatically and needs conscious effort to overwrite.
I see. So identifying the type of error helps you choose the right fix.
Exactly. It makes your self-correction much more targeted and efficient. You're not just writing down the same mistake over and over. You're understanding its source.
That focus on the why seems key. But what about when the writing itself gets complex? Because advanced learners, we often write these long, layered sentences. Doesn't that complexity sometimes hide the errors?
It absolutely does. And that's where another programming concept comes in really handy. Isolating the bug by creating a minimal, reproducible example.
Minimal, reproducible example. Sounds techy.
It does, but the idea is simple. When complex software crashes, good developers don't just randomly change things hoping it works. They try to find the absolute smallest, simplest piece of code that still causes the error.
Okay, strip it down to basics.
Right. And this technique is incredibly powerful for grammar, especially in those sophisticated sentences you mentioned. The error can be hiding in plain sight, just obscured by all the clauses and vocabulary.
So by adding complexity, we might actually be camouflaging our own bugs without realizing it.
Precisely. You layer in these subordinate clauses, fancy vocabulary. It looks impressive, but it can make it much harder to see if the basic grammatical structure is sound. Stripping it back forces the core issue out into the open.
Let's make this concrete. You mentioned Matteo, the PhD candidate from Sao Paulo.
Yes, Matteo.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy, writing his environmental science thesis in English. But his supervisor kept circling these long, complex sentences in red ink without saying exactly what was wrong. Matteo was frustrated, just guessing.
In there.
Right. So he decided to try this debugging approach. He took one monster sentence from his draft. Ready for it?
Lead on me.
In spite of the significant financial constraints, which necessitated a revision of the initial project scope, the research team, comprised of leading experts from both the University of Sao Paulo and the National Institute for Space Research, were able to successfully gather all the requisite data.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's dense. Where did he even start debugging that?
He did it systematically. Bug Hunt 1. He isolated just the opening phrase, in spite of X. Checked it. Yep, that's valid. Avoided the common trap, despite of X. So no bug there.
Okay, step 1 clear.
Then, Bug Hunt 2. He stripped out all the clauses and descriptions, everything between the main subject and the main verb. He was left with the absolute core. The research team were able to gather data.
And suddenly...
Suddenly it jumps out at you, right? The research team his university used American English standards, where team is typically singular. It needed the singular verb was. Subject-verb agreement.
Hidden in plain sight.
Exactly. And the key thing, connecting back to what we said earlier, is that Matteo didn't just fix it. He understood why the mistake happened. That long phrase, comprised of leading experts, stuck right between the subject team and the verb were, completely obscured the connection for him.
Right. The intervening complexity broke the link in his mind.
Precisely. And understanding that why is what helps prevent the same bug from showing up in the next complex sentence. It's not just patching. It's understanding the underlying logic flaw.
That's brilliant. So for us, trying this at home, what are some practical isolation techniques?
Well, sentence deconstruction is a great one. Literally pull out the main subject and the main verb. Write them down alone. Do they agree? Then start adding the other pieces back one by one and see where the sentence breaks, grammatically speaking.
Okay, add components incrementally.
Yeah. Another good one is the substitution test. If you're unsure about a specific word or an idiom, try replacing it with the simplest possible synonym you know. Like if you wrote, the data brings to light a new problem, and you're unsure about brings to light, try substituting shows. Does the data shows a new problem work? It gives you a baseline.
Simple but effective. And what about that rubber duck thing?
Ah, yes, rubber duck debugging. It's a classic in coding, but it works amazingly well for language too.
So you literally talk to a rubber duck.
Or your coffee mug or your plant, doesn't matter. The act of explaining your sentence, justifying your grammatical choices out loud, step by step, often makes the flaw immediately obvious to you.
Because you have to articulate the logic explicitly.
Exactly. You're translating your internal, maybe fuzzy grammatical sense into concrete steps. And if there's a bug, a flaw in the logic, it often becomes really clear when you try to explain it sequentially. It just sounds wrong.
It forces you to confront your own reasoning. I love it. Okay, so we've isolated the bug. But even the best detectives or developers don't rely just on their own smarts, right? They use tools, resources.
Absolutely. No professional developer relies purely on memory. Their skill isn't knowing everything. It's knowing how to find reliable information quickly. They use curated resources. And as an advanced English learner, your intuition is good, but it's not perfect. You need your own grammar stack.
Your grammar stack. Okay, like a tech stack, but for grammar resources.
Precisely. Stop guessing. Stop relying on that half-remembered rule from years ago. Start researching like a pro. This really hit home for Sunhee, a marketing professional in Seoul studying for the IELTS.
Okay.
Her persistent bug was a classic, affect versus effect. She kind of knew the rule, vaguely, but realized that vagueness was inefficient. It tripped her up under pressure.
Oh, effect. The bane of many writers.
Probably. So she decided to build her grammar stack systematically. Level 1, she started with a top-tier dictionary like Merriam-Webster or Oxford. Confirm the basics. Affect is almost always the verb. Effect, almost always the noun.
Okay, foundation established, but it gets trickier than that, right?
It does, which is why she went to level 2, a high-quality usage guide. Think something like Garner's Modern English Usage or Michael Swan's Practical English Usage. There she found the nuances like, oh, effect can actually be a verb sometimes, meaning to bring about or to effect change. And affect can be a noun in psychology.
Ah, the exceptions. Okay.
But her real game changer was level 3, using a language corpus.
A corpus, like COCO-CA.
Exactly, the corpus of contemporary American English or the British National Corpus. These are huge databases of real-world language. She could search for patterns like affect the out and see thousands of examples like affect the outcome, affect the situation, then search an effect on raw and see an effect on the environment, an effect on morale.
So you see how it's actually used in context, not just the rule in isolation.
It's incredibly powerful, arguably the best way to really understand usage. And then finally, level 4. She tapped into community wisdom. She searched affect versus effect on trusted forums like the English Language and Usage Stack Exchange.
Okay.
There she found detailed explanations, discussions of tricky cases, and even handy memory aids like the mnemonic Raven. Remember, affect is verb, effect is noun.
Raven. Nice.
Yeah. So after going through that stack, she didn't just know the rule, she understood it deeply, contextually.
That's a really solid process. So for us building our own grammar stack, what are the essentials? What should we have read?
First, curate your key resources. Have them bookmarked, ready to go. You need a top-tier dictionary, OED, Merriam-Webster, a good style or usage guide like Swan or Garner, access to a language corpus, COCA, BNC, seriously, learn to use these, and a trusted Q&A forum, Stack Exchange, word reference.
Got it. Dictionary, usage guide, corpus, forum. And how do we search effectively? Because just Googling can give you a lot of noise, sometimes bad advice.
Great point.
Right.
Second, learn to search strategically. Use quotation marks to search for exact phrases. So look forward to hearing, not just look forward. Use the cite operator to limit your search to trusted sources. For example, phrasal verbs, cite.bbc.co.uk learning English.
Okay, cite.command. That's a good tip.
And third, crucially, create your own knowledge base. When you successfully debug a grammar point using your stack, document it. Use Notion, Evernote, a simple Word doc, whatever works. Write the rule down in your own words. That's key. And add 2 or 3 clear example sentences that make sense to you.
So you're building a personalized grammar guide as you go.
Exactly. It reinforces the learning and gives you a quick reference tailored to your specific weak spots.
Okay, this is great for fixing clear errors. But earlier you mentioned refactoring. This is for when the grammar is okay, but the writing isn't great.
Precisely. You might be thinking, but my sentence is grammatically correct. And that's exactly when refactoring comes in.
Right.
In programming, refactoring means improving the internal structure of the code, making it clearer, more efficient, easier to read without changing what it actually does.
Okay.
For advanced learners, this is about taking writing that is merely correct and making it truly effective and compelling. It's about tackling sentences that technically work, but are maybe clunky or wordy or just lack punch.
So optimizing for clarity and impact, not just correctness.
That's the goal. Remember Lena, our project manager?
Yeah, with the bug log.
Well, she got to a point where she'd eliminated most of the outright grammatical errors.
Yeah.
But her manager was still leaving comments like, can we make this more direct or a bit wordy? Her writing was correct, but not compelling. So she realized she needed to start hunting for what programmers call code smells.
Code smells, like indicators that something might be wrong, even if it works.
Exactly. Subtle signs of potential underlying problems in the structure or style, even if the grammar is technically sound.
Interesting. Can you give an example of a code smell in a sentence?
Sure. Take this sentence from one of Lena's early reports. The implementation of the new CRM software was successfully completed by the IT department last week, and a significant improvement in the efficiency of data processing has been observed as a result.
Okay, I mean, it's grammatically fine. A bit long, maybe.
It's fine, but it has smells. Code smell 1, passive voice, was completed by. It's indirect, wordy.
Right.
Code smell 2, nominalizations, what some call zombie nouns.
Zombie nouns, love it.
Yeah. Words like implementation, improvement, they're verbs, implement, improve, that have been turned into static nouns. They often suck the energy out of a sentence.
Okay, I see that. Implementation, improvement, very static.
And code smell 3, redundancy, as a result. In this sentence, it's pretty much implied by the structure. Doesn't add much.
Wow, okay. So that sentence, while correct, had passive voice, zombie nouns, and redundancy. How did Lena refactor it?
Her refactored version became, last week, the IT department successfully implemented the new CRM software, which has significantly improved data processing efficiency.
Oh, much better. How many words was the first one? 32.
Yep, 32 down to 20. But it's not just shorter. It's more direct, it's active, it's more dynamic. The core information is identical, but the code is just so much cleaner, more professional.
That's a really powerful comparison. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do we settle for just correct when we could aim for compelling?
It's a great question. We get the grammar right and think, job done? But refactoring is that next level.
So what are some practical refactoring techniques we can use? How do we hunt for these smells?
We'll start with an active voice hunt. Scan your writing specifically for passive constructions, usually to be, plus a past participle, like was created, is considered, will be done. When you find one, ask, who actually did the action? Can I make them the subject? Often, you can.
Okay, hunt for passive voice. What else?
Eliminate those zombie nouns. Actively search for nouns ending in aberration, aberrament, aspirant. These are often nominalizations. See if you can turn them back into active verbs. So instead of we came to a decision, just write we decided. Instead of she did an analysis, try she analyzed.
Makes it much more direct. I know I fall into that trap, especially in formal writing.
It's so easy to do. We think it sounds more formal, but often it just sounds more sluggish.
Right. Okay. Any other tips?
One more. Reduce cognitive load. This is simpler. Just read your sentences out loud. Seriously, if you find yourself running out of breath or if you get a bit lost following the logic, that's a big red flag.
If you can't follow your own sentence easily, your reader definitely won't.
Exactly. Simplify it. Break it into shorter sentences. Your goal should be effortless understanding for the reader on the first pass. Don't make them work too hard just to parse your syntax.
Great advice. Okay, so we've debugged the errors, we've refactored for clarity and impact, but what about those errors that keep coming back? The ones you thought you fixed?
Yes. The developer's nightmare, the regression. A bug you fixed mysteriously reappears in a later version. It's incredibly demoralizing.
I can imagine.
And it happens in language learning too, doesn't it? That mistake, you corrected last week suddenly pops up again.
Definitely. The frustration is real.
So to prevent this, developers use tools like version control, Git, and systematic regression testing. For us language learners, this translates to tracking our errors methodically and proactively checking for our known weaknesses.
Okay, so less about fixing, more about preventing recurrence.
Exactly. It's about building a system. Let me tell you about Pavel, a freelance copywriter from Krakow in Poland. His clients loved his creative ideas, his concepts great, but his final copy always needed an extra layer of proofreading because of these recurring little bugs. For him, stemming from his native Polish, it was often articles A and the, especially the.
Articles, a classic challenge for many learners.
A very common one. This was his personal regression bug. He understood the rules intellectually, but under the pressure of writing, his ingrained L1 habits would just take over.
So how did he stop the regression? How did he build his system?
He got formal about it. First, he created a proper error log, a simple spreadsheet, but he was disciplined about using it. He called it his personal error log, like his own little Git repository for mistakes.
Huh, okay. What columns did he have?
Simple stuff. Bug description, like missing definite article with specific previously mentioned abstract noun. Then bad code, the actual sentence with the error, like we need to analyze importance of this change. Then good code, the corrected version. We need to analyze the importance of this change. And finally, a rule comment column for a brief explanation.
Okay, very systematic. That was his version control. What about testing?
That was his pre-flight checklist. Based on his error log, he identified his top 5 most common recurring errors. And before he delivered any piece of writing, he would run his checklist, his personal regression test.
Like a pilot. I love that. What kinds of checks were on his list?
Things like article check. Use 3trell plus F to search for my top 3 abstract nouns that often cause problems, e.g., information, research, advice. Have I incorrectly used a when with them? Have I missed the where needed?
Okay, very specific search query.
Or subject-verb agreement. Search for all instances of everyone, each, everybody. Check. Is the verb definitely singular? Or preposition check. Search for depend, focus, rely. Check. Is on following them.
Wow, so he wasn't just passively proofreading, he was actively hunting his known weaknesses using search functions.
Exactly. And that's the point Pavel's system illustrates so well. It transforms you from passively hoping you didn't make your usual mistakes to actively testing for your known vulnerabilities before you hit send. His error rate dropped dramatically. So did his editing costs, and his confidence went way up.
That's incredibly practical and empowering. So for listeners wanting to implement this, what are the key steps?
First, commit to building that error log. Spreadsheet, notebook, digital tool, doesn't matter. The discipline of logging consistently is what makes your weaknesses tangible, not just vague feelings of frustration.
Okay, log the bugs.
Second, after a few weeks of logging, patterns will emerge. Identify your personal top 3 or top 5 recurring bugs. Focus your testing efforts there. First, maximum impact for your effort.
Focus on the frequent offenders. Makes sense.
Third, use your tech. Your text editor's search function, Ctrello plus F, CMD plus F, is your best friend for regression testing. Don't just rely on your eyes. Actively search for the patterns you identified in your error log.
Use search as your testing tool. Got it.
And finally, for those really stubborn, fossilized bugs that just refuse to die, consider using spaced repetition software SRS like Anki or Quizlet. Create digital flashcards with the bad code, your error, on the front, and the good code, the correction, plus the rule in the back. Drilling these helps overwrite those old, incorrect neural pathways.
Right. Actively retraining your brain on those specific points.
Exactly. It takes effort, but it works for those deeply ingrained habits.
This whole approach, it really reframes the journey, doesn't it? Mastering English or any complex skill isn't a straight line. It really is this iterative process. You write, you test, you fail, you refine. Just like software development.
Absolutely. And that frustration you feel, it isn't actually a sign that you're failing. It's more like a signal flare indicating you need a better process, a better debugging strategy. By letting go of that emotional weight, that frustrated artist baggage, and embracing the cool analytical mind of the logical detective, you genuinely reclaim control. Errors stop being personal failures and start being, well, interesting puzzles. Data points leading you towards improvement. You learn to isolate them, consult your resources effectively, refactor for that extra polish, and systematically test to keep old bugs from coming back.
So you become the lead developer of You, the English Writer, Incorporated.
I love that. Yes. And remember, your bugs don't define your abilities. Your skill in finding and fixing them. That does.
So the next time you catch one of those familiar errors creeping into your writing,
don't sigh. Take a breath. Maybe even crack a smile and just say to yourself, okay, let the debugging begin.